Chapter 7. I glanced down at my phone and hit ignore, despite the pang of guilt that follows. It's Dad again, calling from the land of lions and tigers and sketchy cell service. I can't talk to him about Stanford right now. I can barely think about it without a wave of hopelessness washing over me. I have no idea how I'm going to tell him I failed. He pulled himself up from nothing to be a very big something, donating millions of dollars to endless good causes and changing thousands of lives in the process. I've had it easy, and I can't even do a simple thing like get accepted to Stanford. How can I tell him that I'm not good enough for his alma mater? Not good enough to run his company? Not good enough to be his daughter? I stare at the open page on my phone like I've been for the past hour. Casey's picture on the funeral announcement staring right back at me. Glancing at the clock, I see that I still have time to make it. Maybe I should go. Some part of me seems to need closure. Go, go, go. What was that? Cecilia asked from the other side of the couch. She nods at my hand. On the phone. I turn the phone so she can see what I've been looking at. Nobody. If you say so. She grabs a piece of popcorn from the bowl on the coffee table and points to the TV. It's just that you've been so distracted lately. You're not even paying attention now. I glance up at the telenova on the screen. She's right. I have no idea what's going on, and I usually love Hugo y Helio. Dad tried to teach us Spanish when we were little, and Cecilia's fluent, but these days I can barely follow along on TV. Why is Fernando at the beach? I thought he was in the city with Maria. Cecilia sighs and hands me the remote. She refuses to use it, saying that all the buttons are too confusing. Wanna go back? No, thanks. I say, standing up. I just need to get out of the house for a little while. Is everything okay? She asks. You've been acting funny lately. Fine, I manage, just before my voice starts to break. Thanks. I lean down to give her a kiss on the cheek, then quickly turn away so she can't see my face. I'm dressed in jeans and an old fleece jacket, so I quickly change into the black dress I wore when Abuelo died a couple of years ago and sneak out of the house through the garage. I don't bother with the Alicia makeup or heels. I just want to be another anonymous teenager at a tragic funeral. By the time I pull into the parking lot, I can tell that the church is totally packed. I manage to find a space in the very back, and as I lock the car, I notice 2 cops in a police car sitting a few rows away. I wonder what they're doing here, expecting trouble at a funeral? Probably just paying their respects. Casey's death seems to have hit everyone hard. I take my place in the line of people still waiting to get in, behind a soccer team in full uniform. I knew Casey for only one night, but it's hard to reconcile the sneering guy I met with the compassionate, handsome boy in the picture that's propped up on the easel in the lobby. An older couple is stationed by the main double doors, the woman with her face red from crying and the man with his back ramrod straight as he greets the newcomers. Must be his parents. I turn and am heading for a side door to avoid them, when a woman with long, graying hair grabs my hands. Alicia, she says with a sad smile. I'm so glad you came. She glances towards the older couple. Such a sad, sad day for all of us. I'm so surprised, I can't think of anything to say at first. Ava said she'd gone out with Casey only a couple of times. She didn't say anything about meeting his family. Right, I finally manage, hoping that the sadness on my face mirrors hers. It's just awful. Did you come with anyone, dear? She asked. No, I say quickly. I'm here by myself. Then you have to come up and sit with us, she says, and before I can reply, she takes my arm in hers and leads me through the main doors and up the aisle to a pew in the front that still has some space in it. Settle in here, she says, guiding me to a spot next to a woman in her 20s. I'm going to go help in the lobby, but I'll be right back. Thanks, I say, feeling trapped. If I get up now, everyone's going to notice. I look around the church at all the people crammed into pews and lining the wall. In some places 2 people deep. There are people my age and people who look like friends of his parents. As I turn back towards the front, I'm startled to realize that the coffin is set on a pedestal only a few yards from where I'm sitting. Shiny, dark wood draped with flowers. It has another picture of Casey on a smaller easel perched on top. Thank God the coffin is closed, but if he got his throat cut, it probably had to be. Just tragic, isn't it? The woman next to me asked, dabbing her nose with the tissue. It is, I agree, nodding slowly. I wonder if Alicia knows her too. He was just the best, she says, shaking her head sadly. And I can't believe he's gone. She slides towards me a couple of inches. You know, she says quietly, looking around to see if anyone is listening. They're saying it wasn't random. Now I look up at her. Her eyes are dry, but her face is still red and a little blotchy. What do you mean? I look around too. Like he was targeted? She nods slowly, sitting back against the pew. Nothing was taken. His wallet was in his pocket when they found him, but I can't imagine why anyone would target him. She sniffs. Casey was an angel, an absolute angel. I can't imagine who would want him dead. I can't exactly contradict her out loud, so I just smile weakly and hope I look like I agree. At least he didn't suffer, she says, blotting at her eyes. I think of the pool of blood by the driver's side door. It must have taken a while for him to die. How do you know that? I move closer so nobody can hear. I thought he was, you know. I can't bring myself to say the words out loud, so I make a small slashing gesture at my throat. That's just what the police told the media, she says knowingly. She puts one hand on the back of my neck and the little divot where my skull meets my vertebrae. Her touch is light. It makes the hairs on my head stand up. Whoever killed him knew what they were doing. They plunged a knife into the soft spot right here. Cut his spinal cord clean in half. He died almost instantly. My mind forms a picture from her graphic description, which is worse than what I imagined just a few seconds ago. The cops have been spending a ton of time at the house, she says, her eyes dart to a couple of men in dark gray suits that are standing on the left-hand side of the church. And I think those guys are plainclothes officers. I've been watching CSI from the beginning. Vegas, not Miami. And the killer almost always shows up at the funeral. I remember the cop car in the parking lot. Why would anyone want to kill Casey? I ask. I can actually think of a couple of reasons, but I wisely keep them to myself. That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? She responds. My mind is reeling when the organ music kicks into high gear, and we all rise to our feet as the family starts walking slowly down the aisle to their seats. The hearse is still in front of the church as I pull out onto the street. I barely remember anything about the funeral. One teary relative after another trying to make a sad joke or tell a funny story, because all I could think about was Casey's last moments. I'd been with him only the day before. The thought makes me sick. When I get to the main intersection, I quickly flip on my signal and turn right instead of left and head towards the freeway. I just need to see it. I can tell which parking spot was his before I even turn into the Cheesecake Factory parking lot. The bright yellow police tape is gone, but there's a small shrine of plastic-wrapped flowers, soggy teddy bears, and burned-out candles leaning against the light pole where Casey's car was parked. This shrine is like a wave of memories and emotions cascading into the empty parking space. Memories and emotions that have absolutely nothing to do with who he actually was. Casey might have been someone's son or someone's brother, but he was also a wannabe rapist and a creep. I let the car idle and I look around, the images of that night flooding into my brain, the misty orange glow from the streetlights, the anger on his face as he pounded on my window, the shadowy silhouette of him leaning on his car as I drove away. I look around the parking lot of the few cars that fill the spaces that were empty that night. Could someone have been hiding in the bushes over to the left? There's still a faint rust-colored stain on the cracked asphalt, and I wonder what would have happened if the murder had been the night before. Would there be 2 shrines instead of just one? At the front of the lot, there's a brown four-door backed into one of the parking spaces, and I see two figures in the front seats that make me uneasy. So I put the car in gear again. I can't see their faces, but I can feel them watching me as I drive past their car and turn right onto the main street. I glance back as I pull away, but neither of them seems to move. Suddenly, I need to feel the mist on my face and hear the roar of the ocean in my ears. I hit the gas, and in half an hour I'm pulling onto 18th Street and into a parking space on the side of the street right before the sand starts. In summer, you have to drive miles for any kind of parking spot, but on a damp, foggy day at the beginning of April, I've got the place practically to myself. The cold, wet air creeps down the back of my neck as I walk towards the water, my feet digging into the narrow strip of sand between the two-story houses that stare blankly at the ocean. Just past the concrete retaining wall, the beach opens up in front of me, and it feels like I'm all alone out here. I slip off my shoes, the sand cold at first, but then warmer beneath the top layer. As I walk towards the ocean, I sit down at the edge of the dry sand, where it slopes down slightly to the constant pulsing of the water crashing into wavelets on the shore, before slipping and bubbling back into itself. I can feel the cold and damp seep through my dress, but I don't care as I stretch my legs out towards the waves. Out past the break, there are half dozen surfers in a lineup, all alike in their black wetsuits. They sit on top of their boards as the waves bob underneath them, lifting them up and then setting them gently back down on the flat surface of the water. I wonder who's out there on such a cold day, but I can't see anyone well enough to tell. Locals, I'm sure of it. Nobody else comes to surf off 18th Street. All the tourists go farther north to breakers or moonlight, and that's just fine with us. I pull my knees up to my chest and rest my chin there. The houses that line the beach are lit up inside against the dark day, and it makes it seem even colder and more deserted out here. The faint smell of smoke rides on the damp air, and it reminds me of Christmas, only a few months ago, when everything still seemed possible. Now I'm just empty, like all my emotions are floating on the surface, waiting to be swept out to sea by the next big wave, leaving me blank and undone. "Are you coming out too?" I whirl around to see Zane with one arm over his shoulder, zipping up his wetsuit in the back. He doesn't seem to notice that I'm not exactly dressed for the beach. I stand up next to him. "No, just watching. Isn't it cold out there?" Zane squints at the surfers in the distance. "You've got a little brain freeze for the first few minutes, then you forget all about it." He picks up his board. "You should come out sometime." Slater Connolly walks over with his board under his arm. "Way to go, bro! I heard the awesome news!" Slater is the definition of a surfer dude. If the turtle in Finding Nemo were human, he would be Slater. Zane seems suddenly pleased and self-conscious at the same time. "Thanks," he says quietly, looking down so the curls in front hide his eyes. "You're getting on the ASP tour for sure," Slater says, the look on his face showing genuine happiness. "And winning that 15K. "I hope so," Zane says. He glances around to see if anyone else is close enough to overhear. "What news?" I ask. "Oh, my bad," Slater says, grinning at me, his white teeth flashing in contrast to his deep tan. "I was totally interrupting here. Adios, bro." He gives Zane a complicated handshake and then runs towards the breaking white waves, puffs of sand following his footsteps. Zane turns back to me. "So what are you—" "What news?" I insist again. He shrugs. "I got invited to the Association of Surfing Professionals Junior Tour event in Tahiti." "Oh my god, that's awesome!" I say, punching his arm. "When?" "In 2 weeks," he says, a grin creeping onto his face. I can see how happy he is about it, even though he doesn't want to show it. "Dad's pissed about me missing school, but I can't let this opportunity get by me." "The ASP is huge," I say, using up my knowledge of surfing in one sentence. "This could be your big break." "Maybe," he nods slowly, "as long as I don't screw it up." "You won't." Zane's always been the most focused person I know. I can't stop smiling at him. At least someone's dreams are coming true. Zane looks out towards the surf and then back at me. Are you going to be here for a while? No, I have to get going. Okay. He seems suddenly slightly awkward. Well, I'll see you around. Yeah, I call as he runs towards the surf. I watch as he leaps into the water and onto his board, his arms making long strokes in the waves so he can catch up with everyone else. I sit for a while and watch the surfboards cut through the walls of the water as the waves crest back towards the shore. The wind is picking up a little and the waves have a bigger head of white foam as they crash into the sand. Zane and Slater paddle furiously out in the dark water and then pull themselves up to ride the swell for a few feet before dropping off the backside. It must be nice to have nothing to worry about except catching the next big wave. I take out my phone and stare at the email. Every time I see the subject line, I think back to the moment before Zane read it to me, back when everything was still happening. I've tried not to look at it, but I can't stay away. I already have most of it memorized. We were humbled by your talents and achievements and by the commitment you demonstrated in all of your academic and extracurricular endeavors. Right. I can picture the look on Dad's face when he gets home. The furrow between his eyes will be deeper, and their usual light brown will be duller whenever he looks at me. I always loved the pride that was written all over him whenever grades came home. Twice a year, we drive all the way up to Stanford to go to football games, each of us covered in Stanford Cardinal red. I've never disappointed him this badly. Before I have time to think about it, I click on forward, choose Dad's name, and then hit send. Then I press delete. Now Dad can have the joy of reading this nicely worded letter, with the Stanford crest that tells everyone once and for all that I'm not good enough, because suddenly all of this seems much less important than it used to. Chapter 8. Awfully fancy for a Saturday afternoon, Ava says as I pass by her room. You're always after me to make an effort, I say, walking quickly into my room as I unzip the dress. Please, God, let her stay there. I don't want to explain this right now. No such luck. Where'd you go? She asks, leaning against my doorway. I turn my back to her and pull on my yoga pants. When I turn around, the bag I borrowed from her is open and she's pulling out a folded program. The funeral? She looks at me like I'm an idiot. You went to Casey's funeral? I pull my head into my sweatshirt, wishing I could just hide in here for the next few days. So? I finally ask, wrapping my hair up into a bun. Way to go keeping Alicia out of this, she says. I didn't go as Alicia, I say. I went as me. Although when you think about it, it didn't seem to matter much. Why are you being so weird about all of this? I wanted some closure, that's all. Closure? Why do you need closure? Did you go to the after party too? I stare at her. You mean the reception? No, I just came home. I didn't want to tell her about stopping at the Cheesecake Factory because I know she'll only hassle me about that too. As shaken as Casey's death has left me, she seems mostly untouched. Good. She seems to calm down some. Do you feel better now? Not really. I grab the bag she loaned me and walk out of my room with Ava following. So, what was it like? She almost looks eager to hear. The funeral? I asked. Big, sad, funeral-ish. I pick my backpack up off the couch and put my wallet and keys from the bag into it. She wrinkles her nose. Was it an open casket? No. Seriously, maybe you should have come with me. That would have blown their minds. 2 of us together at once. Alicia, I do. I remember the gray-haired woman at the front of the funeral home. I thought you said you'd gone out with Casey only a couple of times. I did, she says, distracted by her phone. Why? So when did you meet his family? Ava looks up at me and shrugs. His family? I never met anyone in his family. Every time I went out, I met him somewhere, alone. Well, they sure seemed to know who Alicia was, I say. As I hand her the empty bag, I notice the message light blinking on the phone in the living room. I don't know why Dad still has a house phone. Almost nobody ever calls. I reach over and press play. There's a beep, and then a woman's voice comes through the speaker. This is Kate, down at Leon's hair salon, calling for Alicia Rios. We got your message about rescheduling your appointment to Thursday at 4, and it's no problem. We'll see you then. That's weird, Ava says, shaking her head. They must have looked up a different Alicia Rios and got this number by mistake. She reaches over and presses delete. But there's no Alicia Rios here, I remind her. I don't know, people make mistakes all the time. She sounds impatient. Kinda funny, though. Not so funny, I say, my mind racing. One mysterious Alicia Rios sighting is a coincidence. Two was something else. First the ticket and now the phone message? Someone's screwing with us. You're just being paranoid. She's about to say something else when the front doorbell rings. Cecilia's out visiting her sister, Ava says. I'll get it. I start to worry that it's Eli. I had a good time last night, but I don't want to admit that to Ava. Not yet, anyway. A few seconds later, Ava comes skidding down the hallway. You're not gonna believe who it is, she stage whispers. Is it Eli? I ask, following her down the hall. Why would it be Eli? She says, staring at the closed door. It's the cops. I pause as I reach for the knob. What are they doing here? Don't get it, she mouths. You're being ridiculous. What if something happened? I ask, thinking of Dad so far away, as I pull the door open. Please, God, I pray quickly. Don't let it be Dad. Sorry to bother you, the one in the black suit jacket says. Are your parents home? No, I say, my voice surprisingly shaky. I clear my throat. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. We're just here to ask a few questions, says the one in the green uniform. The department is investigating the death of a young man last weekend, and we're following up on some leads, the other guy says. My eyes wander to the big black gun that's in the holster at his side. He glances down at the small screen as if checking his facts. I'm Detective Nato, and this is Officer Lawrence. We need to speak to Alicia Rios. I open my mouth to say something, but nothing comes out. Ava giggles uncomfortably and says, Alicia? There's no Alicia Rios here. This says otherwise. Officer Lawrence pushes some buttons on his tablet and then turns it to us. It's a copy of the license Ava got, the one with her picture and the name Alicia Rios on it. He taps the screen. And this is the correct address, isn't it? Well, yeah, but... I start. Okay. Ava interrupts. Alicia does live here, but she's not home right now. What? God, Ava... I can't believe she's actually going to lie to the cops. She was right. Everything really is on their cop computers. She puts a hand protectively on my arm and squeezes it for the universal sign for shut up. It's okay, Lex. We don't have to cover for her, because she didn't do anything wrong. She sends me a look, and at this point she's taken it so far that I don't have much of a choice. The cops share knowing looks. Do you know when she'll be back? Ava shakes her head sadly. I couldn't guess. Alicia spends a lot of time in LA, with her acting career taking off. She's not here all that much anymore. Acting career? We never discussed an acting career. Ava is going way off script. Officer Lawrence checks the screen and then back up to us. You girls look a lot like Alicia does in this DMV photo. I decide to let Ava handle this one too. We're her sisters, Ava says. She glances at me. Triplets. Identical triplets? You don't see that very often. They look surprised and not entirely convinced. 1 in 500,000. Ava replies without missing a beat. I can't believe she actually did some homework. Officer Lawrence nods like he's impressed. So you're one of only 1,400 sets. Congratulations. I study him carefully. He's obviously not an idiot. I hope Ava knows what she's doing. Officer Lawrence smiles. Well, if you don't mind, can we see some ID? No problem, officer, she says. I think our bags are in the family room. We'll go get them. Detective Nato takes a step forward, and I can feel the mood shift. What was a friendly exchange has just become a little more serious. Why don't we just have one of you go? Okay. Ava seems unfazed. Lex, can you bring my wallet too? It's in the juicy bag. I rush back down the hall, wishing we'd just told the truth. I fumble around in Ava's bag and find her gold wallet right away, grab mine, and run back to the front door. Ava is chatting with the cops, who are still standing on the porch, and if I didn't know better, I think she was enjoying herself. I wonder what other career choices Alicia has made while I was gone. Here, I say, handing her the wallet. My hand is visibly shaking. Ava doesn't look nervous at all. She opens up her wallet and flashes her license at them. Do you mind taking it out of the wallet? Detective Nato asks. Not at all, she says, and takes it out to show it to him. It says Ava Rios. Thanks, he says, and as she shoves it back into her wallet. And yours? He says to me. As I hold my wallet, I suddenly realize that Alicia's license is sitting right in the little plastic window. I didn't take it out when I got home last night. Right, I say, struggling to pull my real license from behind it. That's okay, he says, putting a hand out. You can leave it in there. No, I say, tugging even harder until my license finally pulls free. I've got it. I'm sure the detective must notice me close the wallet quickly, but he just glances at the name and my photo and then hands it back to me. Thank you, ladies. Detective Nato leans forward and hands me a card. Will you please have Alicia call me as soon as you get in touch with her? It's important. Can't you just tell us what you want to talk to her about? Ava asks. Then we can give her a message. I'm sorry, I can only talk to Alicia. He taps the card. But it's important, so please let her know we came by. We will, Ava says, waving. I can't get the door closed fast enough. I lean against it and stare at the little card with the tiny police shield and the name of the detective on it. Why the hell did you start that in the first place? It would have taken 2 seconds to clear up the whole Alicia mistake. She looks at me like I'm an idiot. Because they had the license? She said. Someone must have known that Casey was out with Alicia and they found her in the system. I don't need to get busted for getting a fake ID. So you'd rather be taken in on suspicion of murder? Oh, come on, she says. Who said we had anything to do with Casey's murder? I'm sure they're just tracking his acquaintances, trying to find out where he's been. Stuff like that. I try to hand the card to Ava, but she puts her hands up. Nuh-uh. You've got the ID. I don't want anything to do with this. Wait a second. I look closer at the ID. I thought you said you got this from a guy on the internet. Yeah, so? But it's not real, right? Of course not. I gave the guy a photo and paid him $175. I wave Alicia's license in her face. It does look real, even to me. If this is fake, then how did the cops get it on their computer? It shouldn't be in the system anywhere. How the hell should I know? She says a little defensively. They've got everything on their computers these days. Something's wrong. Jeez, Lex, let it go. Ava puts one hand on my shoulder. Look, I'm sure it's no big deal. Stop worrying. It'll all blow over. I doubt they'll be back. I put the cop's card into my pocket. Right, I say, knowing that, like a killer showing up at the funeral, these things rarely, if ever, blow over on CSI.